I see some people standing in the back. You can come to the front of the sanctuary. The seats here are not reserved, so you can come forward and take a seat. מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אכסר, בינו דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות, ינעלני, נפשי ישובב, ינחני במגלי צדק למען שמו, גם כי ילק וגצל מוות, לא ידע רע כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורדיי, דישנת בשמן ראשי. כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The words of the 23rd Psalm, Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit, guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. And so we are gathered here this afternoon, sadly to say goodbye to Robyn Diamond of blessed memory, Razel bat Mordechai Miriam, Zichrona Libracha, the daughter of Martin and Marion Moglav of blessed memory, the sister of Joanne and Arthur Chapman, sister-in-law of Sandy Tapper, the wife of Harvey Diamond, the mother of Richard Diamond and Michael Diamond. Robyn passed away on May 29th, surrounded by family, after battling with cancer for a year and a half at the age of 65. Today, we are saying farewell to a remarkable woman who excelled in an area that traditionally was dominated by men. From the Jewish point of view, throughout both the written and the oral Torah, we find men consulting women and following their advice, beginning with Abraham, obeying the voice of Sarah, Jacob, following the advice of his mother, and later consulting with his wives before departing from Haram, even though he had been already so instructed by God himself. Similarly, King David is advised by a wise woman who saves an entire city with her counsel. Many other women are cited in the Bible and in the Talmud for their wisdom, yet we don't find any woman deciding civil or capital cases, with the exception of Deborah, the prophetess, as the Bible narrates, sitting beneath her date palm as the people traveled to her for judgment. Robyn Diamond belonged to this select group of women of the caliber of Deborah, who left a mark not just on her generation, but also for future generations. But for Robyn, becoming a judge wasn't an easy thing. Sometimes I think that life is like the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, a holiday commemorating a miracle achieved by the joint efforts of God and the Jews, the Almighty and the Maccabees. They found a small flask of pure oil, enough to last for only one day, not knowing there will be a miracle. What made the Maccabees light the candelabra, the menorah? Why begin what they could not finish? Why relight that menorah when reason dictated that a day later it will go dark once again, unable to fulfill its purpose? The Maccabees were not discouraged by the seemingly impossible success of their effort. This was the secret of their triumph. No matter how bad the situation, no matter how impossible the probability of success, we begin the task and optimistically have confidence in God to somehow make our efforts prove fruitful. We all know about Robyn's achievements during her long career, from Manitoba to The Hague. What not too many people know is that Robyn Diamond had to overcome at least 2 big health problems: a serious back injury and a heart issue. And even though she had those problems, she kept moving forward to become the great judge she became to be. And I believe that just like the story of Hanukkah, Robyn Diamond experienced a miracle on her life because she never quit. She never said, "This is the end of the road." She did all what was humanly possible, and because of that, God did the rest to help her fulfill her divine destiny and to shine like Deborah, the prophetess. But for Robyn, not everything was work. She also liked family, friends, and traveling. Judaism also believes in the importance of family. What family means to us is love, and someone that will always be there for us through the good times and the bad times. It is about encouragement, understanding, hope, comfort, advice, values, morals, ideals, and faith. These things are all important to us because it makes us feel secure and happy inside, regardless of what is going on in our lives. Robyn was very close to her family and developed a special relationship with each one of them. She had a special relationship with her sister Joanne, talking on the phone at least 5 times a week. She also had good friends and long-time friendships. In a few minutes, we are going to hear some memories about Robyn Diamond from a friend and her two sons. During a Jewish funeral, we have lots of rituals and prayers, but the most important part is, no doubt, the eulogies. This has biblical roots, as we see that our father Abraham eulogized Sarah, his wife. The word eulogy means a good word. Giving a eulogy is a way to honor a person's life. It also is a way to provide comfort to those who are heartbroken. The eulogy expresses sorrow for the loss, yet it celebrates and finds meaning in the person's life. In that spirit, I would like to invite first to John McPhail, friend and colleague, to come forward to talk about Robyn Diamond.
Early Tuesday morning marked the passing of a beloved friend and family member, a dear colleague, a dedicated Unified Family Court judge, and a provincial, national, and international family law icon, my friend, the Honorable Madam Justice Robyn Diamond. The depth of admiration and affection she inspired in those around her is evidenced by the overwhelming number here today to mourn her passing and celebrate and honor her life and support her family. Although Justice Diamond loved being a family division judge, there was no question about that. She was never one to stand on formality, and recognizing the love and respect that those here today have for her, I will simply refer to her as Robyn, and I know that is what she would want. I don't know how many dinners I was at where she'd turn to someone and just say, "Oh, just call me Robyn." Ever the consummate planner and organizer, on a number of occasions since last fall when Robyn and I were talking about various issues, she would say to me that she wanted me to deliver a eulogy at her funeral. Portions of this eulogy were, not surprisingly, pre-approved by Robyn. I had actually prepared a letter nominating her for the Manitoba Bar Association Distinguished Member Service Award. Unfortunately, she wasn't given that award, but she liked the letter that I wrote. She approved the letter I wrote, and she said to me, "You can use that for my eulogy." Wise men that they are and always have been, Harvey, Richard, and Michael knew better than to go against their mother and wife's wishes. I am nonetheless deeply honored and humbled that they asked me to speak to all of you today about my dear friend and colleague Robyn and her illustrious career. I recognize she has many, many friends, many of whom have been her friends longer than I have, and so it's a particular honor to me that she wanted me to do this and that her family asked me to do it as well. Robyn's career in the civil service and on the bench was full of significant accomplishments that benefited and continue to benefit countless children and their families in Manitoba, across Canada, and around the world. She graduated from the Faculty of Law at the University of Manitoba in 1974, a young bride, having just married her beloved Harvey the year before. She articled with the Department of the Attorney General, and after her call to the bar in 1976, commenced her career as Crown Counsel in the department's then Civil Law Division. She became the head of the department's Family Law Unit, and it was there that our paths first crossed when I was one of the department's articling students. Robyn ultimately became the director of the newly created Family Law Branch in 1985, a position that she held until her appointment to the bench in 1989. I was surprised to learn, and I hadn't known this until last fall, that she was the Department of the Attorney General, now the Department of Justice's first woman legal manager. Her responsibilities included significant family law legislative policy development initiatives. At an early stage in her career, she got it. She got it that family cases are different and require unique approaches and services, and that families experiencing breakdown have specific needs, and those needs are important to address in the best interest of the children. A senior family law lawyer from Alberta communicated with me, and she's known Robyn for years, and noted that Robyn, throughout her career, had felt that the web of connections between people who were passionate about family law and the well-being of parents and children after family breakdown was a great joy to Robyn. Her career was focused on nurturing those relationships and working for the greater good for families and children. It's hard for most lawyers today to recall that in the late 1970s, there was no maintenance enforcement program. There was no family property legislation, and the Family Maintenance Act, one of our family law statutes, was very different to its current form. While at the Attorney General's Department, Robyn worked on a number of committees and initiatives that, with government support, made Manitoba a recognized leader in family law in Canada. And when I succeeded her as director of the family law branch, because our career paths seemed to mirror each other as we went along, I remember being at my first federal provincial meeting and having the federal person turn to me and say, "Stop talking about what Manitoba does because the other provinces are getting upset." These initiatives that Robyn was involved in and that I was bragging about at that meeting included, but are no means limited to, the development of Manitoba's maintenance enforcement program in 1980, and it was the first automated enforcement program of its kind in Canada. She was involved with the implementation committee to establish and thereafter expand a unified family court system in Manitoba in the mid to late 1980s. She was involved in the development and enhancement of family conciliation, the social services arm that provides services to families experiencing separation and divorce. She was involved in the development of the then Marital Property Act and various other significant legislative initiatives. And she also was involved in the development of an innovative government-based access assistance program that was a 4-year pilot project that commenced in 1989. Unfortunately, it ended in 1993, but the good news was I was hired as counsel for that program in 1989, and that's when I began my career with the family law branch. And Robyn and I almost immediately connected, and our friendship flourished and grew from that day. And she introduced me to the fascinating area of legislative and program policy development. I find it so, she found it so, fostering a love and keen interest in that area that I continue to have. Robyn was a wonderful mentor to me then and when I was a new judge, just as she was for many other young lawyers. Robyn loved meeting and supporting young lawyers and spending time with members of the bar. Any Manitoba lawyer who attended the biannual National Family Law Conference will remember the Manitoba dinners. She coordinated or sometimes encouraged another designated person to coordinate on her behalf. Special efforts were always made by Robyn to assure that everyone at that dinner was welcome and everyone from Manitoba was invited. Robyn would have been extremely touched by the notice that was sent out by the Family Law section of the Manitoba Bar Association yesterday, advising members of her passing and noting, and I quote, her tremendous contributions to the development of family law and her help with individual families. During her years in government, Robyn regularly dealt with a wide range of community organizations and individuals. She was extremely proud of one particular legislative initiative that began as a result of a call she received from a woman who had been subjected to domestic violence by her husband and was concerned because her former husband continued to possess a significant life insurance policy on her life with him as the named beneficiary. Despite the fact that the Insurance Act did not fall within the responsibilities of her unit within the department, she took the initiative to meet with the appropriate government officials, propose a legislative amendment, and as a result of those discussions, the legislature did pass an amendment to remedy such cases. It was typical of Robyn. She learned or heard of a problem. She took steps to address it. Robyn was truly a force of nature. Robyn was one of the first members of the Federal Provincial Family Law Committee, which is a federal provincial committee that reports to and takes directions from Canada's deputy ministers. In that capacity, she worked on a proposal for a Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction and Enforcement Act that was approved by the Uniform Law Conference of Canada, the Federal Family Orders and Agreements Enforcement Assistance Act that provides valuable tools to support and enforce custody and custody and support orders. She chaired a group that developed model charging guidelines for parental child abduction cases, an area that was always of extreme concern to her, and represented Manitoba at meetings as the current Divorce Act was being developed in the 1980s. She chaired various subcommittees dealing with these issues. She also, and this is extremely impressive, as a young lawyer, just 4 years after her call to the bar, she attended meetings of the Continuing Committee of Ministers on the Constitution in the summer of 1980, and the first Ministers' Conference on the Constitution that September. She was responsible for analysis of family law issues for discussions at those meetings and wrote a position paper on family law and the Constitution for the province of Manitoba. How many lawyers with 4 years at the bar can point to such accomplishments? In September of 1989, Robyn was appointed a judge of the Family Division of the Court of Queen's Bench and embarked on the second phase of her career. She embraced her new duties with the same enthusiasm, fervor, and dedication that she applied to her previous family law position with the Department of the Attorney General, as it then was. She quickly developed the skills needed to help families resolve their issues without contested litigation and contested court proceedings, and the initiatives and projects with which Robyn was involved during her years as a judge were also impressive. At Justice Canada's invitation, she was the sole Manitoba representative on the National Child Support Advisory Committee and on the Federal Spousal Support Guidelines National Advisory Working Group on Family Law. She participated in discussions about both of those key initiatives, and every family law lawyer in this room and judge is well aware of the Child Support Guidelines and the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines. She was appointed by the Canadian Judicial Council to represent Canada's common law jurisdictions on the two-judge Special Committee on International Child Protection. Justice Jacques Chamberlain of the Court of Appeal of Quebec was appointed to represent that province. The two of them became the Canadian judicial representatives on the newly created Hague International Network of Contact Judges. Her responsibilities included facilitating direct judicial communications between Canadian and foreign international network judges on issues relating to that convention, and this area of work became her absolute passion during the latter part of her time on the bench. She proposed establishing an interprovincial judicial committee in Canada to address communication issues within provinces, and also child custody jurisdictional disputes, and also internationally. For some 15 years, she chaired the Canadian Network of Contact Judges that the Canadian Judicial Council established in response to her proposal. And through that network, she led the development of initiatives to establish a framework for appropriate judicial communications in such cases, developing procedural protocols and other direct judicial communication guidelines, both of which have been used as a model throughout the world. As she had been during her years with government, Robyn was involved in various legal education initiatives, including sessions for the bench and the bar. She was honored to attend the 4th, 5th, and 6th Special Commissions in The Hague reviewing the operation of the Hague Abduction Convention, as well as the 1996 Hague Children's Convention, which has an incredibly long name, and I won't repeat it at this time. She presented at innumerable international conferences on issues relating to the Abduction Convention, judicial communication, the work of the International Network of Hague Judges, and other family law issues. In my then capacity as director of the Family Law Branch and counsel for Manitoba's Hague Convention Central Authority, I had the pleasure of being with Robyn at several of these earlier commissions and meetings. We traveled together, met people together, and were even able to take some vacation time in London after one of these sessions and take in some shows and art galleries. Everyone knows Robyn loves the theater and loves art galleries. Last Saturday, I was able to spend some precious time with Robyn, and we reminisced about the interesting and important work that we had been privileged to be part of, and the incredible and interesting people we had the opportunity to meet, and the many good times we'd had, including attending a Tina Turner concert at the end of one meeting in Edmonton, and she popped up, and didn't she have great legs? When Robyn retired last September, after 28 years with the Family Division, I was advised that she was the longest-serving federally appointed female judge in Manitoba and one of the 10 longest-sitting female judges in Canada. She clearly left a rich legal legacy. One of the last papers she authored was for a conference held in Hong Kong in 2015. That paper provided an invaluable overview of the history and development of the case management system in the Family Division of Manitoba's Court of Queen's Bench, and will and always will be a valuable historical resource for our court. Robyn's contributions as government counsel and on the bench were acknowledged in the legislature last October, when special statements were made by the Minister of Justice and representatives of the two other political parties. Robyn and Harvey were there at the time. Over the past few days since Robyn's passing, I have received dozens of email messages from Robyn's international and Canadian judicial friends, most of whom I know, expressing their admiration for her and her sorrow at her passing and their support for her beloved family. Those messages include messages from her fellow international liaison judge, Jacques Chamberlain, the former Chief Justice of Australia, Diana Bryant, and her colleagues, Justice Joe Kay, now retired, and his wife Yvonne, and Justice Victoria Bennett. Justice Bibi Chu from Hong Kong, who spoke about the assistance Robyn gave her respecting judicial communications and other international law issues. Justice Peter Boshier from New Zealand, who referred to her passing as the loss of a living treasure. Judge Ramona Gonzalez of the United States and Judge Graciela Tangal of Argentina. Her dear friends, Justice Andrea Moan of Alberta and retired Justice Donna Martinson of British Columbia, who were on the network of contact judges with her for many years, and Justice Gillian Butler from Newfoundland and Labrador, a more recently acquired dear friend. I also heard from the central authorities from a number of countries. There were universal themes in the messages that they sent to me. Robyn's passion for issues affecting families, but most particularly children. Her tireless work ethic and strong organizational skills. Her warmth, her sense of fun and enjoyment of life, and her ability to make and sustain friendships. The Secretary General of the Hague Conference on Private International Law, Dr. Christophe Bernasconi, wrote today to me expressing his shock and sadness, as well as that of his colleagues at the Permanent Bureau, on Robyn's passing. He sent a lengthy message in which in part he stated that Robyn was a remarkable woman with a great passion for the rights of children and will sorely be missed. He noted her leadership role in the development and promotion of direct judicial communications in Canada and internationally. He referred to her participation on the experts group that developed guidance respecting the Hague network of judges and general principles for judicial communication, and her contributions to the Hague Conference's Judges newsletter. I also note that Robyn was one of a limited number of invited contributors to an international publication a number of years ago that was prepared in honor of the retirement of the former Deputy Secretary General of the Hague Conference, William Duncan. Her professional legacy is undoubtedly incredible, and one that all of us as her friends and her family can rightly take pride in. But most importantly, Robyn left a rich legacy of friendship and family. She loved her friends, and we loved her. We remember the fashion icon and her shopping advice that 50% off was definitely not a sale. Her zest for travel, her zest for fun, be it an evening at the theater, dinner out, a brisk walk, her love of mystery and suspense novels and television, American politics and Canadian politics, the occasional glass of Prosecco, and her keen interest in and concern for each of us who were blessed to be able to call ourselves her friends. We shared each other's joys and sorrows. Over the winter in an email, Robyn communicated to a number of us that if love and friends were enough, she would live forever. I know she felt and appreciated the love and support of her family and many, many friends during her illness. The telephone calls, the flowers, the cards, the emails, and we all know Robyn loved email and that BlackBerry of hers. She was never without it. I know that I speak on behalf of her many, many friends, old and new, when I say we are all devastated by and deeply mourn her passing and extend our very deepest sympathy to Harvey, Richard, and to Michael. Robyn loved her family to distraction, her sister-in-law, her brother-in-law, nieces and nephews, and her little great-nephew whom she adored, as well as her many other relatives. But most of all, Robyn loved Harvey, Richard, and Michael. She loved them beyond measure. On our last visit, just days before her passing, she told me how happy she was that Richard was home to visit her, and that Michael had just been home. She also spoke of how wonderful Harvey was. Truer words were never spoken. Almost 44 years of loving marriage, a more dedicated and loving and devoted husband never walked this earth. Robyn was devoted to her family, and her devotion and love was returned 100-fold. The legacy of her love for and from her family and for her friends is her greatest legacy of all, and I'm honored to be able to count myself one of those friends. Last evening, my husband reminded me of a beautiful picture we have in our home of Robyn that I will later share with Harvey, and that I will be always remembering Robyn by, and that is how I will remember her. The photograph was taken by me in the winter in The Hague, and it shows Robyn carrying cases of materials, briskly walking ahead of me, because she always walked faster than I did, with another member of our delegation on a beautiful pedestrian avenue banked by trees, covered in fallen leaves, en route to a session at the Peace Palace. Typical Robyn, fashion icon, well prepared, and eagerly heading off to make a difference, having fun and making friends along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for your tribute. At this point, I would like to invite Richard and Michael to come forward.
There are really no words to describe my closeness with my mother. I know this because the slow, agonizing decline of the disease forces even the most optimistic and hopeful to think about and plan for this day. And as such, you start thinking about what you might say during a time like this. And after unsuccessfully putting pen to paper several times, I realized that there really are no words. There are only feelings, indescribable feelings. Feelings that make my heart burst and my whole being melt. Because my mother was my insides. She is my insides, my guts, my confidence, my bravery, my strength, my sensitivity, my compassion, my loyalty, and even my laughter. To many, she was the Honorable Madam Justice Diamond, but to my brother and me, she was Mom. While she was so accomplished in her field, her main priority in life was always her family. Michael and I could not have asked for a better parent and role model, and my father couldn't have asked for a better life partner and best friend. We are all so devastated that she is no longer with us. My mom was born on August 8, 1952 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Her Canadian parents moved to Salt Lake City to help my great-grandfather, who started a business there. Shortly after my mom was born, her family moved back to Winnipeg, settling in the West Kiloland area, where my mom proudly lived for the rest of her life. Growing up with a judge for a mother was a wonderful practice for my future career as a litigator and my brother's as a lobbyist. My parents raised my brother and I with respect and encouraged us to make our own life choices, so long as we considered their wise advice. In situations where things may not have worked out as planned, my parents were always there to support and help us. While my mother could never be partisan given her career, her love of her community and her interest in current affairs has been passed on to Michael and myself. Dinner conversations growing up usually centered on politics and current affairs. In fact, in second grade, my teacher asked everyone in our class what our favorite party was, and instead of responding pizza party or roller skating party, I responded Liberal Party. The compassion, commitment to civic duty, and to fairness and equality that guided my mother's career as a judge have been instilled in both Michael and my own worldviews. From a young age, my mother taught us to judge people based only on their character and to be a champion for those who have been marginalized and discriminated against by society. She taught us that diversity was something that should be embraced and celebrated. Another trait of my mother that I admired so much was her strength. In her 30s, she suffered from severe back pain that would have left most people on disability. She endured surgery after surgery and eventually had an electronic device implanted on her spine to control the pain, which led her lead a regular life. In her 50s, a virus attacked her heart and almost killed her. Even in the last few months, when cancer was quickly shutting down her body, she never complained at all and always was more worried about and concerned about the well-being of those around her. Despite all the physical obstacles she's faced, she and my father were fitness junkies, working out 5 or 6 days a week at the Wellness Institute, and encouraged both Michael and me to make fitness a major priority in our own lives. My mother was an avid traveler, having visited every continent. She was very interested in other cultures, and Michael and I were so fortunate that my parents took us along on many of these adventures growing up. How many people can say that they've had the opportunity to visit the Great Pyramids of Egypt, Machu Picchu, the Great Wall of China, Angkor Wat, the Colosseum of Rome, the Hermitage Museum of St. Petersburg, Russia, with their parents? A very special memory that I will always cherish is when my mom and I went to a live taping of Saturday Night Live, which was a show we both enjoyed and would watch together growing up. My mother was also a music fan. Her favorite artist was Tina Turner, and she was very proud that she still fit the leather pants that she pulled out for every Tina Turner concert over the years. My mother was so proud of Michael and me. She would watch Michael every time he was on TV as a pundit, which at times meant that she was watching him every day or more than once a day. and she was incredibly proud when Michael started his own consulting company, which became very successful. My parents have always been my role models, and there was never a question that I would aspire to be a lawyer. I know that my mom was very proud of me when I graduated from law school, decided to focus my career in the area of family law, her specialty, and recently, earlier this year, when I became partner at my firm. My mother had a very special bond with her sister Joanne. I've never met siblings who were as close as they are. I don't remember a day in my life when my mom and my Aunt Jojo didn't speak on the phone at least 5 times a day. I know my aunt will miss my mom a great deal. I want to finish my remarks talking about my parents' marriage. My parents had a true partnership that was built on trust, mutual respect, and undying love and passion for each other. They were each other's true love in every sense of the word. Their lives revolved around each other, whether being at home in Garden City, at the cottage at West Talk Lake, or at their condo in Sarasota. My parents thrived on each other's company. Their devotion for each other has taught me that true love is real and not just something made up by Hollywood. My parents' partnership embodied true love. I'm going to miss my mother more than words can express. I will think about her every day and live on knowing that the values she has taught me will be inside me forever. To quote her favorite artist, my mother was simply the best. While I am sad that she is gone, I am grateful to have been raised by such a truly remarkable and amazing person. I will always love you, Mom.
On August 8, 1974, my mother's 22nd birthday, and 3 days prior to her marrying her best friend, one of my heroes, Richard Milhouse Nixon, resigned the presidency. In his farewell address, he said, "Well, I guess all of you would say this, but my mother was a saint." Well, mine was. She was caring, she was smart, she was always up for an adventure, she was full of love and life, family first, but friends and even strangers a close second. Nixon and my mother shared one trait, just one trait, and that was grit. I'm a result of that grit. My mother was not supposed to have another child because of chronic back pain, but she was determined to grow her family, and here I am. It was her grit that enabled me, in spite of a serious learning disability, to graduate from high school and later university. It was her grit that allowed her to play with the boys professionally in spite of her chronic pain and 2 young sons. And it was her grit that allowed her to survive heart failure 10 years ago. In December, I visited my parents at their home in Sarasota. We unfortunately had to take my mother to the hospital. A CT scan showed growths in her brain. My father and I took the news as one would expect, but my mother smiled and told the doctor it was nothing to worry about. She had beaten so many odds, she said, she wasn't worried. On my visits to Winnipeg over the past several weeks, she repeatedly told me she would be okay and not to worry. Her strength and determination were amazing. As I grew up and became involved in politics, few things gave me more joy than meeting people who knew my mother professionally. They always praised her ethics, compassion, and intelligence. It was universal. My mother loved to travel, and our family was blessed to benefit from her travel bug. But the normal memories are just as sweet, be it spending time at West Talk Lake in Florida, or in-service days and summer breaks as kids, doing fun things around Winnipeg. She was always there for us, to spend time with us, to help us. We had simultaneously the most amazing and severely normal upbringing you can imagine. My mother and I shared a love of plays and musicals, Meet the Press, Chris Buckley novels, and Billy Joel. She was the first person I went to a concert with and has remained my most common concert companion. Her love of news and politics no doubt spurred my own career, intersecting both fields. I was always excited to share a clip of me on TV or radio with my mother, and she always claimed to have enjoyed it, even while disagreeing with my commentary in many cases. Like my mom and her parents, we were exceptionally close. We spoke by phone multiple times a day, and I'll miss that, be it talking about Morning Joe, where again we often disagreed, or what we were planning to eat that day, where again she often lectured me on my food choices, and everything else in between. My parents had a unique partnership, and without my father's love and care, she would have been unable to survive the multiple health challenges she faced over the last 4 decades. Their love was special, and although she will be missed, it will endure. If we can all take one thing from my mother, I do hope it's her optimism. She had a lot to be upset about, but chose to be happy and hopeful. God blessed us with her, and although she is now gone far too soon, we remain thankful for the gift that she was forever. We want to allow her memory to live on and allow her to help others posthumously as she did while she was alive. So yesterday, our family made an endowment to the University of Manitoba to create the Honorable Robyn Diamond Memorial Scholarship in Law. For those who would like to contribute, there are cards with details here today. Thank you for coming today to pay tribute to a wonderful woman. God bless you all.
Thank you so much for those beautiful eulogies. And maybe God's will that those words will be a source of inspiration and comfort for all of us. Please rise now for the El Maleh Rahamim prayer. El Maleh Rahamim Shochem Bameroimim Hametzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina V'Mahalot Kedoshim Kedoshim Uteorim Kezohar Araki Amazirim Et Nishemat Et Nishemat Reizel Bat Mordechai Miriam She'alecha Leolama Bahabur Shanu Mitpalelim Ve'ad Azkarat Nishemata Began Eidein Began Eden Tei Menuchata Lachem Balarachamim Ahastire heya veseder kena Vavle olamim Utzeror bitzrarachayim Achayim et nishemata Adonai unachalata Vetanuach veshalom Al mishkava Ve'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, the soul of Robyn Diamond, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. In a few minutes, we are going to proceed in caravan fashion to the Shaarey Zedek Memorial Park, located in the corner of Armstrong and Main Street. If you are coming with us, please remember to turn on your four-way flashers to mark your car as part of the caravan. And please remember to stop at stop signs and red lights. Don't worry, we're going to wait for you at the cemetery. Immediately after burial, we are going to return here at the Shaarey Zedek for the meal of consolation on Robyn's memory. It is also a Jewish tradition for the family to stay at home for a few days after burial to receive visits from family and friends. That is what we call the Shiva. So it's going to be Shiva visits where you will have the opportunity to come and offer your support and love to the family. And the family is going to sit Shiva on the home of Harvey Diamond. That is 156 Ambassador Row in Garden City. Visits will be on Friday from 1 to 4 p.m., Sunday 1 to 4 p.m. and 7 to 9:30 p.m., and Monday 1 to 4 p.m. and 7 to 9:30 p.m. Everybody's invited to come and visit the family to express love and support. Now, to proceed to the next stage, which is the caravan towards the cemetery, we have a special tradition, and there is that once you exit the building, to form two rows through which the coffin can find its way into the hearse. So remember, once I invite you to leave the building, to form two rows outside. So at this point, I would like to ask the pallbearers to exit the chapel and to assume their places alongside Robyn's coffin. And the immediate family is leaving now and proceeding to their transportation. And for the rest of us, please remain in your seat until we get the sign from our funeral director that it's our time to leave the building. That is going to be in a few minutes. That's our sign. Thank you all for coming. Please remember to exit the building and to form two rows outside.